most surviving U.S. nuclear submarine. Much ink has been spilled over the U.S. Navy's new Columbia-class submarines, the successors to the Cold War-era Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines, and for good reason. Once in service, they'll be the most survivable leg of the United States nuclear triad, able to lie in wait, underwater and undetected, and ready to launch nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles virtually anywhere, at a moment's notice by order of the Commander-in-Chief. The Ohios are often referred to as the Navy's boomers owing to their extended patrol and nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missile capability. However, not all of the Navy's Ohios are nuclear-armed. In 1994, the 4 oldest Ohio-class submarines underwent a conversion process to equip them with a special operations support and land attack capability in place of their nuclear payload. To that end, those submarines had their Trident nuclear missiles removed and replaced with shorter-range, non-nuclear Tomahawk cruise missiles, which freed up space to support up to 66 special operations personnel. As a part of the 2010 new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, each of the 14 Trident missile-carrying Ohios had 4 of their missile tubes deactivated, bringing the number of onboard missiles down to 20 from 24. As the Ohio class is nuclear-powered, they can operate for over a decade without needing to refuel or without requiring any major overhaul. Typically, however, the Ohios are underway conducting deterrence patrols for about 77 days. After completion, the submarines then stay in port for just over a month for provisions and routine maintenance. More recently, one of the Navy's boomers, the USS Alaska, made a publicized port stop at Gibraltar, though the submarine's home port is in Kings Bay, Georgia. The Navy described the stop in Gibraltar as a brief stop that strengthens cooperation between the United States and the United Kingdom Gibraltar and demonstrates U.S. capability, readiness, flexibility, and continuing commitment as part of NATO. It is rather unusual for one of the United States Navy's most powerful weapon platforms to be so publicly announced. America's Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines are some of the quietest, stealthiest submarines in the world. The Ohio submarines represent America's ace in the hole, megatons of nuclear firepower quietly patrolling the world's oceans, ensuring that any nuclear attack on the United States will not go unpunished. In addition to the 14 ballistic missile submarines, 4 have been converted to missile carriers. The Ohio-class submarines were the result of an early 1970s requirement for a larger missile submarine capable of carrying the next generation, and beyond, of submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Submarine-launched missiles were growing longer and wider, due to the demand that they carry multiple warhead reentry vehicles while maintaining and even extending their range. The Ohio class was initially meant to be a simple upgrade of the Lafayette-class submarines, but the Navy was anxious to include advances in nuclear propulsion quieting learned from the USS Narwhal submarine and its natural circulation technology reactor, the S-5G, and ultimately decided in favor of a clean-sheet submarine design. The submarines were designed to be 560 feet long. The Ohio boats packed 24 Trident C-4 missiles, each with a range of 4,600 miles and carrying 8 100-kiloton warheads. This was a marked improvement over the earlier Poseidon missile, which had a range of just 2,876 miles. While Poseidon could easily hit Moscow from the Norwegian Sea, more distant targets in Central Russia and Soviet Central Asia were out of reach. The C-4 allowed the Ohio class to strike the same area from as far as the mid-Atlantic or the entire western half of the USSR if operating east of Iceland. In 1990, the Ohio-class submarines began transitioning to a new missile, Trident D5, that is still in service today. D5 is a larger, heavier missile that carried 8 warheads of 100 or 475 kilotons each and has a maximum effective range of 7,456 miles. This considerable range upgrade makes it possible for a submarine equipped with Trident D5 to strike any point in the former Soviet Union while tied up at the submarine base at Kings Bay, Georgia. Each Fleet ballistic missile submarine spends an estimated 66% of its time at sea, with 2 sets of crews, blue and gold, alternately manning the boat. Patrols last for 70 days, with a 25-day handover period in port between crews, meaning an average crew will spend 70 days at sea and 95 days on shore. Since the end of the Cold War, a number of changes have come about to the missile submarine fleet. Under the terms of the START II Treaty, the number of nuclear-armed submarines was reduced from 18 to 14. The 2010 New START Treaty limited the number of Trident D5s deployed at any one time to 240 missiles. To comply with this, 4 missile launch tubes per submarine are removed, reducing each submarine to 20 missiles each. Arms control experts Hans Christensen and Robert S. Norris estimate the United States has between 4 and 5 submarines on hard alert at any one time, capable of responding to a surprise nuclear attack, with another 2 undergoing overhauls. One of the least obvious but more important upgrades to the D5 in recent years is the advent of the superfuse that allows them to attack hardened targets, including communication sites and missile silos. Although this ability to hand off counterforce targets to the submarine fleet is meant to make a smaller nuclear force more credible. The 4 Ohio-class submarines removed from Fleet Ballistic Missile submarine duty still had 10 to 15 years' worth of service left in them. Rather than dispose of the hulls, the Navy found a radical solution: convert each to a guided missile submarine, or SSGN. Each submarine had its ballistic missile tubes reworked to carry up to 7 Tomahawk cruise missiles, for a total of 154 missiles per submarine. A single sub can strike up to 154 targets with a 1-ton warhead at ranges of nearly 1,000 miles, a valuable capability in conventional conflict against countries like Iran, North Korea, or even Russia or China. The 14 Ohio-class missile submarines are unseen protectors of America from nuclear ambush. Each will probably remain in service for 40 years or more, depending on how well their replacements, the Columbia-class, stick to their timetable. Their conventionally armed brethren offer a powerful, flexible option for dealing with everything from terrorist groups to nation-states.